Hello, welcome to our YouTube channel. We are Task Farm Uganda. Here is Lawrence. He's going to be taking us through all the services we offer to our farmer. We redefine agri-business. Don't touch the dial. Watch out on our services.
Hello and greetings from Task Farm Uganda. My name is Wangeshi Lawrence Mashalia. I am a project engineer at Task Farm Uganda. We deal in a number of things, some of which are entailed in this profile. This is just our company profile, simply just for someone to easily check through and understand what we do and have a look at some of the things that we've done, some projects we've done all over the country, in Uganda and outside Uganda. You can check us on www.taskit.ug/farm. You'll be there, you'll be able to get much more of what we do. Task Farm is a company that was started in 2010. We've been serving people in Uganda and in East Africa. We have been dealing mainly in farming. And in farming, we are talking about agri-business, farming as a business, not just farming, not subsistence farming mainly, but farming as a business. We install greenhouses. We design and install greenhouses. We design and install irrigation systems. We design and install solar dryers. We design and install farm infrastructures. They vary depending on the need. Someone has goats, he needs someone to construct for him a goat house, and many more. There are always many farming structures that can be installed. Today, I want us to discuss about greenhouses, and mainly the designing and installation of greenhouses. A greenhouse mainly, or in nutshell, is a protected environment for crop production, protected from the harsh environment that we have surrounding us, protected from the sun, protected from storms, protected from insects, protected from animals and pests. In that case, that environment where you're farming in, your plants are excluded from these external factors that hinder production. That's what we call a greenhouse. It's not mainly because of the color of the house. It's simply because of what we grow inside there. Now, a greenhouse vary in sizes and in purpose. There are smaller greenhouses, there are very huge greenhouses, depending on the purpose for the greenhouses. We have small greenhouses, for example, for nursery, which I'll see later on in this video. We have small greenhouses for nursery, we have small greenhouses for backyard gardens, we have greenhouses for horticultural farming, and we are looking at, in horticulture, you are talking about things like sweet pepper, tomatoes, cucumber, etc. We also have greenhouses for floriculture. This is people who deal with the flowers. And when I talk about greenhouses, I would want to draw a line between shade houses and greenhouses. A shade house, yes, is partially protected from pests, but greatly shaded. The purpose of that one is to shade from, the amount of sunlight that gets to the plants. So today we only speaking about the greenhouses. Now, in the greenhouses, we can make greenhouse frames using either metal poles, and in metal we have what we call black steel, we have steel galvanized, and we have aluminium. In that order, the aluminium is the best metal to use for farming, followed by the galvanized steel, And then the last that I would say you should use is a black metal pipe, or the ordinary metal pipe. Now, the cost also varies as per the material used. The other material that we can use to make a greenhouse flame is poles. For example, the eucalyptus. We have also other trees, pines, and many other. We also have bamboo. And we can also make the structure from PVC pipes, what we call the pressure PVC pipes. And you make the greenhouse frame. Now, the frame is what holds the material that we use to cover the greenhouse. And the material that cover the greenhouse are the main item that make a greenhouse a greenhouse. To start with, we have what we call the sun cover. The sun covers come in different types and colors, depending on the crop that you intend to grow. There are some which are white, pure white or milky white in color. There are others that are yellow. There are others that are clear, and the color shade also varies, especially if you are going to grow flowers which are sensitive. It is very important you know the color that favors your flowers. If you are growing horticulture, say sweet pepper, tomatoes, and cucumbers, those horticultural crops that we do grow, you can use basically yellow. Yellow will do good for you. Now, in these peppers, it is important to note that it is not every pepper you get in the market that works for you. Now, for example, this is a pepper, what we call a UV treated sun cover. It is 200 microns. The microns is the thickness of this pepper. We do not measure them in gauge. So if someone comes to your garden and tells you he's going to use 1,000 gauge, you just know he doesn't know very well what he's talking about. So we use at least a minimum of 200 microns here in the tropics, or here in Kampala, for example, and in Uganda. There are other peppers which are a little bit heavier than these. We have the 210, 250, 300 microns, depending on the purpose of the greenhouse. Now, this is the main cover we use on top. This cover serves as a filtration for the light, for the sun rays that are coming into the greenhouse. The sun rays that we get from the sun, it's not all of them that are, should we say, beneficial to the plants. So this cover filters and only allows that which is beneficial to the plants to get to the plant. So that's why we use this sun cover. It also helps us to protect our gardens from uncontrolled rainfall. Because sometimes it can rain the whole day, it can rain the whole night. The plants don't need that much water. They need a regulated amount of water. And for that reason, we need to control how much water goes in it. And that's why we do not want the rain to get to the plants. Also, if you're a good farmer of tomatoes and say for example cucumber, you'll note that when it is a rainy season, the too much rain brings about diseases onto the plants. And as such, if we can control the amount of rain or amount of water that pours down, we are safe. And that's why we use this kind of paper. Now, that is on top. To hold it on to the frames that we have made, remember we said we can use wood, we can use metal, we can use PVC pipes, we can use bamboo. To hold onto that material, we use what we call a profile. A profile is a special made, it's still galvanized, it's a special made metal groove that we nail these, or we fix these onto the frame, and then we bring our material, just a minute, okay, Just hold on a minute. Okay, just opening this one up. Okay, I just came from the store. Now, when we have these now nailed onto our structure frame, we get this paper. Now we cover it, and it is important to know which side goes where, because it doesn't just work in either side that you put on the frame. Some side need to be up. There is also a side that is meant to be on the inside of the greenhouse. So this is what we call a profile. This is what we use. We nail these onto the frame, and then you put your sun cover, and then you use this wire. This is a special made wire for this particular kind of work, under high tension. Now this wire, you come and lock it through. You lock it through the profile like that, simple, but very firmly. And once it is locked like that, nothing can pull it up, not even wind. Even if you have a storm, your structure will still remain intact. Now, this wire, we call it a wiggle wire. It is normally 2 meters long, and then a profile is 4 meters long. So one profile will require 2 wires. That is for holding the material up. Now, on the sides of the greenhouses, especially if you are in a very warm environment, or what we call the low altitudes, you will need what we call the insect nets on the sides. Now, these insect nets serve 2 purposes. They control, or they prevent insects that may want to fly into your greenhouse, while allowing enough aeration into the greenhouse. And aeration is key in production, because if you don't have proper aeration, you're going to end up with high humidity, and then that will bring about fungal infections, the powdery, the mildews. They will just be immense in the greenhouse. Now, we have different type of insect nets. We have the hard type and the soft type. It's all about the budget, depending on how deep the pocket is, or how you need just a simple greenhouse at a friendly price. Now, that's where now you choose the net to use. Now, this is what you use on the sides of the greenhouse. You'll be able to see later on samples of greenhouses that we've done, and you'll be able to see these items in place. What we mean by HDPE, it has to be specially treated to be able to handle weather. For example, sunshine. For example, you've ever seen people who are made what we call shade houses with ordinary shade nets. Ordinary shade net, if you put it in the sun for more than 6 months, it shatters down. You just find it all torn down, and it becomes useless. But this particular type is not affected by weather at all. And you give yourself a minimum of 10 years, still using the same garden, enjoying the environment, and enjoying your benefit. Now, that is for the structure of the greenhouse. When we get inside the greenhouse, we shall see a few other things. For example, we have what we call the, depending on the crop that you're growing, there is a times when you find you need to use what we call mulching paper to cover the ground where the plants are. And mulching papers also come in different sizes in thickness. We have 60 microns, we have 100 microns, we have 20 microns, depending on one, how long you expect the crop to be down there, and two, also the depth of your pocket or the resources available. Now, mulching papers have their unique advantages towards the farming in the greenhouses, because one, they prevent water loss from the soil. They also prevent, they normally don't encourage insects to multiply, because for insects, most of the insects to finish their life cycle, at some point they have to bury themselves in the soil as a pupa. They also makes the greenhouse generally clean. And if greenhouse is clean, you have less problems, especially when it comes to fungal infections. For now, we are going to go into the greenhouse. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back. You are welcome. This is an example of a small greenhouse. The structure frame is wooden. We made it out of eucalyptus trees. Next is a metallic one. You are going to see it in a short while. However, a greenhouse, like I explained earlier, can be used for different purposes. On this particular one here, we are using it as a seedling house, or a greenhouse where we are going to grow our seedling, or in another word, you can call it a nursery house, where we are just using it purposely for growing seeds or for seed propagation. Now, what surrounds us? On top, we have the UV cover. Remember when we talked about the yellow UV cover? That's what we have above me. Then on the sides, we have the insect net. Remember, the insect net's main purpose is to keep the insects off while allowing free flow of air. This is the net we have surrounding the greenhouse. On top, I have the sun cover to protect my plants. It is important to note at this point that I have not used shade net around the greenhouse. Why? Because this particular shade net here is 75% shading. And in many insects, especially what we call the small greenhouse insects, these ones, they just fly straight across. So you'll have zero protection against insects. So that one is well understood. Now, on the nursery, or in the nursery here, we are using what we call seedling trays to propagate our seeds. A seedling tray is simply a plastic tray with these holes, more or less like the one they use in baking industries. And right here, where we have these holes, this is where we put what we call our planting medium. There are different types. We have cockpit, we have pit moss. There are different types depending on what is your favorite. But the main purpose for a planting medium is for germination purposes, or for growing purposes for these seedlings, like you can see them here. Now, apart from that, these plants will require an irrigation system. An irrigation system, a greenhouse, whether it's for horticulture, whether it's for floriculture, whether you're going to use it as a seedling house, you must have a way of watering your plants. Now, in watering per se, you can have it fully automated, or you can have it semi-automated, or it can be manual. But in my case, I have it semi-automated because sometimes I have very young seedlings, sometimes I have very mature seedlings. So I need to give them water as per the need. And for that purpose, I have a system here that helps me water my plants. This particular system, it sort of imitates a pump that you use, or what we call a backpack, in that it only releases a mist of water where I direct it to. I have a small pump that keeps increasing my pressure to about 6 to 7 psi, and that is efficient enough for me to do my watering magic. Now, remember, in a nursery, the young plants don't necessarily need quite a lot of water, but it needs to be given consistently, or after a short while. After a short while, they need to be given more water. So that's a job for one guy, because he doesn't have to carry buckets of water to go and watering the seedlings. So that is the irrigation system that we have used for the nursery house. When we go to the greenhouse, there are a number of ways you can use to irrigate a greenhouse. There is the ordinary tape drip pipe.
We call it tape because you can easily roll it into a ball or something, and then you can easily open it and it can be flattened. Now, this is what we call a tape. It comes in different spacing and emitting rate. The rate at which water flows out differs depending on the crop you're planting and your preference. Now, this is an example of a tape drip line. To connect the drip line to a main line, irrespective of whether it is a tape or it's the heavier types, because we have different types. We have these round ones, we have some clear ones. There are different types. You need to have a reservoir somewhere, or a water tank somewhere, or a reliable source of water somewhere. From that reliable source of water, it is important to note that it is highly advised you filter your water before it goes to the greenhouse. The reason why we filter this water is because these irrigation pipes, or these drip pipes, come with nozzles, or you can call them macro nozzles, or in other words, they have very tiny or very tight mesh that allows only a drop of water out at a time. So if you send in, or if you allow in dirty water to come through to your garden or to your greenhouse into your drip irrigation pipes, you'll end up having these spores or these macro sprinklers blocked or clogged. And to unclog them is quite a piece of work. So to prevent that, we advise you use a water filter. You can have what we call a disc filter, or you can have a screen filter. In this particular case, I have a screen one to screen all the dirt that may have come with the water before it enters into your greenhouse. So this is the screen filter that we use. And in case it gets dirty, you just open this one, just as simple as you've seen me do, and then you just flush the water through, all the dirt is out, you fix it back, and the water runs again. Now, that is for filtration. When it gets to the garden, we have what we call self-compensating drip lines for in case your garden is not flat, or in case you may not afford the self-compensating one. We use what we call global starts. In other words, before the drip line leaves the main line into the garden, you may have your garden a bit slightly slanting. You may have to install drip lines which have a control valve at the beginning where they connect to the main pipe. A control valve that you can be able to switch off and on as per the need. We are going to see it just in a short while as we go to where we have the plants. Stay connected. Oh, you're welcome. Now, this is a sample of a greenhouse. It's a small backyard greenhouse where we used to grow crops, mainly just for demonstration purposes. Now, in our growing beds here, we do have crops that are in these growing troughs. The main reason why we use the growing troughs is because we quite have a number of visitors who come around, and for cleanliness purposes, we just had to put the soil in a controlled environment to avoid contamination. Just like you can see, we have tomatoes, we have sweet pepper the other side, we have strawberries growing here. Now, we were talking about irrigation in the greenhouse. Now, inside here, we do have the drip tape, this one. This drip tape is what we have in here, and it is passing light under the mulching paper, and that does the irrigation inside there. And these plants can grow healthy and happily down there with enough water and losing none to the sunlight or to the sunshine. Now, here you can see we have already tomatoes which are ready for harvest. You can imagine, just in your backyard. Thank you. For this and more, please contact us at Task Farm. You can call us on those numbers that are scrolling down. and we'll be ready to serve you. We have all these materials and more. We can serve you. We can build your greenhouse. We can guide you on how to go about this. We are waiting for you. Looking forward to see you. Thank you.